You are.
When is servant leadership just too much? Let's talk about that.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation.
Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockel, way down here, and we are going to try something new today.
We're doing a podcast while painting.
Painting while podcasting.
Isn't this ingenuity?
We're going to see if we do either one well.
Yeah,
during the time.
And hopefully throughout this, I won't drop our brand new mics into the paint.
2 vats of paint.
Yeah.
Got an interesting topic today, though, that kind of fits what we're doing. In fact, it's why we're doing this and talking about it the same way. We're wondering aloud whether or not servant leadership ever just goes too far. Can servant leadership?
It sounds funny. As soon as you say it, it's like, oh, I'm not allowed. I should not be saying that.
Well, I remember even graduate classes and then having discussions later on in church leadership and ministry leadership. Watch how people would say, well, servant leadership is of course the top. It's the leadership style.
It's what we're called to do.
So yeah, well, there's no argument there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, okay, well, what does that include? Does that include, one person doing everything? A lot of churches and ministries are run on the back of that one person or that one family who can just do literally everything, and they can do. They're good. They're good enough to do
Not
everything.
Not just that, but even they feel it's their gift.
Like
it's the way they give. Well, I'll give a little bit of context too, because I'm sure I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
But a lot of this conversation came because one morning I came in to school early, as we do, and I happened to notice that the floors were particularly messy down the hallways. Not for any particular reason, but it was just noticeable, and I decided, that I have a little bit of time. Why don't I just grab a vacuum and vacuum it up? And as I was vacuuming, a member of our church was in and saw me doing that, and the comment was made, and it wasn't like as a rebuke to me or anything like that, but the comment was, you should never have to do this. You have far too many other responsibilities to need to be vacuuming the hallway, which I was like, okay, I grant you, I do have a lot of responsibilities.
Could I do something else right now? Absolutely.
So, sure, yeah. Could I find something else to fill the time right before school? Yeah, I absolutely believe that. But at the same time, like, my mind immediately went to, so is this job beneath me? I don't know if we should jump right into it, but it's like, is this the Jesus washing feet? Like, how dare he? Like, he's way too important to be washing feet.
Because I'm sure that person would say there was nothing wrong with Jesus washing feet.
Correct.
I'm sure
and again, I think it was more of just a comment of, we should have other people that have already taken care of this, right before the students come in. You shouldn't be doing this, which, again, I agree. But I've also been in a position, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, where I was a teacher, and while also a teacher, I was in charge of facilities. And so I would be teaching, and then a student would knock on the door and say, hey, we need somebody to go plunge the toilets. And it's like, okay, well, at what point do I sacrifice my job of teaching a class to go and be a servant leader and plunging toilets? So that's kind of what we're digging into. And even I think we should ask the question for Christian school leaders, like, should we purpose to do something that is perhaps outside of our job description so that we can be an example or demonstrate servant leadership?
Okay, so I guess before we get into that, we'll go ahead and hear from the Herzog Foundation, our partner. And please, folks, please make sure that you are lining up some time to go out to the Herzog Foundation and see them, or to get involved with one of their virtual, or better yet, one of their face-to-face leadership series. And there's just so much that's coming out from the Herzog Foundation right now, which is such a blessing to so many schools, including their School in a Box. If you happen to know a leader who's looking to start a Christian school, or you would like to be a mentor to a leader who's starting a Christian school, contact the Herzog Foundation, especially their School in the Box program. And there was very recently a group of 40 leaders from across 24 states. Specifically, they were going to be new school leaders who were coming into contact with they were all flown in to Kansas City, Missouri, and they were coming into contact with the mentors who they had been partnered with through the Herzog Foundation to help start those Christian schools in those different states. What a blessing. Let's hear from them now.
Are you ready to take your school's mission to the next level? This summer, the Herzog Foundation Institute invites Christian school administrators like you to join the transformative workshops designed to equip, inspire, and empower you for the coming school year. Why should you attend? Learn from top Christian education leaders, network with passionate peers from across the nation, gain practical strategies to strengthen your school's impact. Workshop locations vary throughout the year, but this summer, and specifically in the month of July, you can find workshops in Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri. Spots are limited and filling fast. Visit herzogfoundation.com/institute to view workshop details and secure your seat today. Remember, it's free. Just get yourself there. Don't miss this opportunity to renew your vision, sharpen your skills, and lead your school with confidence. The future of Christian education starts with you. Sign up for a Herzog Foundation Institute summer workshop now.
Herzog is amazing. Let's just say this. I know they are our partner, and they help us a ton with our podcast. But seriously, as a resource, shoo.
Yeah. They just offer so much.
What an amazing thing.
So much to so many Christians. And there's so much more that could be offered. And go ask. Go find.
Yes.
Go look. And we believe that you will be as amazed and blessed as we are in that looking. But
absolutely.
Back to our conversation today about servant leadership going too far. One can go too far. Okay, so if we break it down, we as
break it
work
down.
so well.
Sorry, I had to say
that. Maybe that's how I break it down. You can't walk away from Christ washing feet.
Correct.
Okay, was he doing that in a professional capacity? If it would have been his work hours, and I don't want to be sacrilegious here, but if he was in his work hours as a carpenter, helping his dad out in the shop, like, would he have been washing feet? Like, would that have been something that he was doing in his carpenter phase, assuming that he was in his father's business in that way? Like, so we know that personally, it would be very difficult for the Christian to say anything should be below us.
Correct.
In fact, I think we can probably walk away saying nothing should be below us as absolutely. Okay. So we can start with that premise, and then we move forward. Okay. Does that change at all when we move into the professional space? So when I take off my husband, dad hat at 8:00, not that you ever do this, of course, but again, bear with me. You take off that hat, you put on the school leader hat, and you walk into that professional space, you pull up, you pray, whatever it is you do to get your day started. Boom, you're there. Okay, at that point, are there tasks that we're going to use the below you language or menial, or perhaps we should just use job description? Are there job description tasks which really should never fall to you?
Right.
They should never be on your plate to do. They should be on somebody else's plate to do. And that's kind of where we're going today.
Right.
As I think about this, and here we are, of course, painting a schoolroom.
Yep.
And you don't know whether we're volunteering trying to do this at midnight. Actually, you can see it's light. You can see it's light outside, you know it's not.
I'm in it.
But this is Alaska. But you don't know if we're volunteering trying to do this, or if this is in the professional time that Matt's been granted or he's paid for or whatnot. So let's not make any assumptions that way. Let's just see guys painting rooms and having conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Should Matt, as the head of a school, ever be painting a classroom or should the leadership which is hired him for a role realize and demand of him that he find somebody else for the tasks which could be accomplished by, and, this is where you break it down, that could be accomplished by a high school student, perhaps a trustworthy middle school student, and do not require the degrees, the certification, the time on task, the wisdom, the conversations that the rest of his job description does.
Right.
If we won't go anti-pro necessarily, but I would say, yeah, I would hope so. I would hope that is not something that he ever is compelled, and maybe that's one of the key words here. I hope that's never something that Matt or any of the school leaders are compelled to do because of a lack of resources to the opposite.
Correct.
I really hope that's never something that they feel compelled to do because the resources aren't there otherwise. Because we are talking about tasks which, again, could be completed well outside of the pay scale, if you're thinking just in a mercenary way, well below that pay scale. Go ahead. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I don't know. I didn't want to.
Because Matt's making lots of money.
Yeah, well,
that's for
I'm
sure.
making lots of dough. the bucks are just rolling in. No, I was gonna say, we started with talking about Jesus washing feet, and that's kind of what the classic example of nothing should be beneath you. However, we also have the biblical example of Father-in-law Jethro.
Father-in-law Jethro.
Father-in-law Jethro going up to Moses saying, "You nincompoop, you are going to kill yourself if you're doing everything yourself."
A few episodes ago was an idiot. Now it's a nincompoop. I like that.
Sorry.
Nincompoop is even better, though.
You numbskull. I don't know. Whatever. You little whatever you are. But so there is that example of delegation.
Sure.
So that you are able to do that job that you have been called to.
The deacons, right? The deacons.
Yeah, so that's where you are relying on trustworthy individuals that you can put your whole faith and trust in to take on those smaller tasks, not necessarily less important. Yeah. And I think that's the important thing, is we're not saying that painting a classroom is not important. Absolutely it is. But if it's getting in the way of you doing something else, like hiring a teacher, okay, then there's a great example of a time where I am absolutely willing to do this menial task, but wisdom says I need to pass this off to somebody else.
Yeah. Or I need to hire somebody whose job description does include these things.
Right.
I think back to the leaders who began so many of these Christian schools, and I'll think back to writing the history of Seaside Christian Academy, which was Ocean City Christian School in the 1990s, and going back and interviewing some of those key stakeholders from early on, and how beautiful a story that was told over and over and again of late nights by key stakeholders who were board members, who were cheerleaders, who were church members behind it, even though there were other church members who may not have been behind it. And then seeing that building come into shape and leaning on people who otherwise, they weren't going to be the teachers, they weren't going to be the administrators, but they were part of the paint team, they were part of the drywall crew, they were doing everything. So we should take some time and recognize those who
yeah,
in that first wave of Christian schools made possible what was and what are, and I'm sure there's some now who reflect that same sort of. That is part of the job description, and so much that if that part doesn't get done, well, we're not going to have the school.
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the other thing. Are you going to find anybody as passionate about our complete ministry, which includes mopping of the floors and cleaning of the toilets? Is anybody going to be as passionate as the one who is looked upon as, who the buck stops here, So to perhaps the challenge is finding others that would say, you know what, I'm going to adopt this ministry, or, perhaps it is something that you're paying somebody to do as well, but to be able to take the same level of pride and responsibility as we tend to put upon ourselves as leaders, that's where the challenge is often going to come. But you don't want to sell people short.
And at some point, though, we know, I heard a good friend of the podcast say this recently, and it stuck with me, that sometimes when we are in the project, we can't be working on the project. We can't be improving the project when we are on the project. It could well be that the manager who, think about how many blue collar workers began this way. They were the best at the tool, and even teachers are this way too. The teachers are the best teachers often get asked to do what? Become the administrator, move into administration. So if that's the case in a paint shop, so to speak, you got the best painter, the most reliable guy who winds up his best with the customers. He was the guy they wanted to pass the business to, and now they did, and now he's the boss. Well, he may be the best painter in the room with the most tips. They can do it the fastest, but that doesn't mean that he should be doing the painting.
Right.
Which is, that odd juxtaposition, that wonderful irony that you got to work through in organizational setup like that, at whatever point it happens to be. So you need to be aware of that as well, that you may be doing a disservice to the organization by accepting the task. If it is, something that's up to you to do, or whether or not, it could be doing a disservice to the organization to say, yeah, I'll jump in and do that. We're kind of floating through reasons here, but if we're working ourselves out of a job at any given point, to do that effectively, to create a space that includes your cross-training and writing things down well enough that if you get turned into jelly on 50 tomorrow, the school, the organization will still be okay. Well, painting is not really that. That's not the
plunging toilets or anything else.
Yeah, those cheaper. And again, I don't like putting it the mercenary level of just money, but in many ways that is part of what it comes down to. Is if it can be hired out to somebody at a level that you are paying less than the head of school, less than the administrator, then the leadership above, including the administrator, and sometimes let's not overlook that. Sometimes we need to get out of our own way and stop picking up for other people's shortcomings or organizational leadership's lack of awareness. We might have to draw attention to the issue at hand. Hey,
talk to the school board
member. I'm not doing this, and it's not because I'm not. I'm one of the best painters in this organization, but I'm not doing this because I also know what's going to happen come July 29th, when I'm not looking on the last year anymore. I'm only looking on the year at hand, and I'm going to wish I had that time back that I was spent on those 3 classrooms doing those things.
Yeah.
And so there's a self-awareness of what your hours are worth. There's a self-awareness of how much time you do have. And we're thinking about the summertime right now, but it could be, like Matt was talking about earlier, in the morning of the hours of his morning, that one day of school where he showed up and was cleaning the floor. If you're going to make that kind of statement, make sure that you are aware of those hours spent. Make sure you're aware of what you would have been doing with that time. And that shouldn't be too hard, because we should be able to give an account. Much like Doge would ask for, we should be able to give an account.
Yeah.
What it is that we're doing.
Well, and going back to the vacuuming the floor, like that happened, once in a whole school year. So it's not like I was finding myself doing that frequently, and it just so happened that one time I did it, somebody else saw me doing it and perhaps even assumed I do it frequently.
Yeah.
But
I definitely got asked the same thing, interestingly, about a floor. I was sweeping a floor on a very windy day in the fall, and so there were leaves everywhere coming into the building. So I was sweeping up the entryway, the foyer, and that was enough to prompt somebody to ask me if there was something better I should be doing or something. And I think in that case, they were also offering themselves, like, hey, I'm a volunteer. Just give me a broom. Like, I'll do that for you.
Yeah.
We should also talk about the possibility that you are granting yourself this opportunity to be in service to be an example to other people.
Yeah, I know. We don't want to say that too loud.
It's almost like political, and you're playing a political game of I'm not above anything.
Yeah.
So that might be something that you walk into, that you walked into a space and a time when the previous guy or gal, they were known for being, that's below me. I won't do that. And so it might be a political move for you to say, I'm going to schedule out times to be seen working.
Yeah, I think it's good in both. And I think about this a lot. I mean, we ask.
I just think about something.
I don't think we are unusual as a small Christian school to say, okay, there are times where we have to break down the cafeteria to set up for another class or a chapel or something. And so many hands make light work, and we ask our students to, pick up a lot of that work. And, what's typical for a junior high or even senior high student to say, like, child labor, you're asking us to do all this work, and, that's not what we're here for. We're supposed to be here to learn.
Service hours, folks.
Yeah, like, where's my chart? Let me count all this time. I'm counting it. I had to pick up a chair for 20 seconds, so write it down. But, we say to them, like, you need to be ready and willing to serve at any opportunity.
Yeah.
But if they don't ever see us going above and beyond, and, not that we really want to say, well, hey, did you see me over there, what I was doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit there have been times I've thrown that out there, especially when it comes to those kids that just kind of stand around and are the ones that complain the most.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want you to pick up your head and look not just at me, but look at everybody else who hasn't stopped this whole time. Let's see that, let's acknowledge that, and let's keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond the students, I think it's also important for our faculty to see that, because they are the ones that we're asking to do so much all the time. And so for the faculty to be able to see, when it comes to, the toilet is clogged and you run to the closet and grab that plunger, like, that should say something to them. Like, it's not beneath you and you're willing to help them. Just like, we'll go into the classrooms and say, is there anything I can do for you? And they may not want to ask because say, well, you shouldn't be doing that. But if I can, I will.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of, there is no job is without politics. And I think that it is worth saying that it's like teaching a class as well. It's like saying I have a pet class that even though I'm the administrator, I will always be teaching this class because I want to be in the classroom. I want to be seeing students. I want them to see me. I never want to lose the skill of teaching, not that you don't have opportunities to teach otherwise.
Well, that's going to wrap up this conversation. And I guess the thing I'm probably most interested in, for those of you that have endured kind of watching this video of us painting, of like, these guys are awful.
Yeah, don't
painting.
talk about our painting skills.
If you have painting critiques, maybe keep those.
Yeah, keep those yourself. I really don't want
if you want to add to the conversation, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. But it is time for our administrator shout out. The spotlight is going on Vanessa Jodek. Because that's how you say it. I know that. I actually don't know that. But Vanessa is administrator over at FHL Academy in Bagley, Minnesota.
Now, Vanessa is another one of those leaders from the Minnesota Association of Christian Schools under the leadership of Executive Director Mr. H, Principal H, Pastor Allen, who is no longer in Minnesota but working feverishly for them, I'm sure. So we are excited to recognize yet another one of those Max schools. And Vanessa, I'll pray for you now. I'll be able to doff my cap today because I'm not wearing headphones. Father in heaven, whatever Vanessa's doing right now, maybe she's on vacation or perhaps she's painting her classrooms as well. Maybe she's working through teacher reviews. Maybe she's looking to hire somebody. Lord, all the Christian schools right now, so many of them are looking to hire people. Please, in every way, have your will and way and fill the voids. Well, thank you for it. But for Vanessa, give her an extra measure of grace, blessing, time today she didn't think she would have. Well, thank you for it. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, this was a starter conversation. Hopefully, we'll get some comments on it, and we'll see where you are, and perhaps you use the menial tasks as political gain. Perhaps you use them as an opportunity just to get away from your other tasks. Perhaps you have a crew of summer painters that is larger than other schools' faculty. We're in a lot of different places, a lot of different years. So let us know where you are. Let us know what it is that you are doing, or what it is that you don't get to do, or wish you were able to do, or miss doing as far as tasks slate painting, and we'll be stronger for it. So yeah, thanks for going with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.